In this video, I'm going to show you how to use selections and brushes to color a coloring page like this one here. So I'm going to give you this file that has a full color version of Sonic, so you can use it as a reference, and then you'll be doing the coloring over here on the right side. Okay, so before we start, there's a couple things I want to show you. Please make sure that you go up to Window, Workspace, and put Reset Essentials. That way it makes sure that you have the same things on the right hand side that I have. You're really going to need this color tab the most and your layer tabs. The tools that you're going to use are the magic wand tool. You're going to use the eyedropper tool. You'll be using the brush tool, and finally the eraser tool. If you don't see any of these tools when you look for them in the same spot that I am, they might be behind one of the other tools. So it's possible if you're looking for the magic wand tool, it might be behind something else. So just click here and hold one of these selection tools. You can press W on your keyboard to access that spot. Just click and hold on the bottom to find the tool that you want that's nested in there, and we're going to choose magic wand tool. The brush tool should be already default at the top. The eraser tool should already be at the top, and the eyedropper is probably on the top too, but it's this magic wand tool. You might have to click and hold on this box to find where it is nested. The first thing that we're going to do in this project is to set up our layers. So you'll see over here in the Layers tab, we have a background. I want you to duplicate this layer. So if you right click on that, you can choose Duplicate Layer, and then you can say OK here. The reason why I want you to do that is while you're making this drawing, you'll be surprised at how many times you may accidentally start coloring on your background layer, and we don't want that. We want to keep everything that we're coloring on a separate layer. So I'm having you make a copy so that if you accidentally color on it, you can delete that layer, make a new copy, and continue on your way. So let's go ahead and set up the other layers that we're going to use. If you go to the top and choose Layer, New, Layer, you're going to make this layer and call it Base Color and say OK. You're going to make another layer, Layer, New, Layer, and you're going to call this layer your Shadows. And then one more layer, you're going to go Layer, New, Layer, and we're going to make this Highlights. So the reason I'm having you make layers like this is I want to show you that all your base colors are going to be on one layer like that. Then you're going to have your shadow layer, and then you're going to have your highlight layer. So all three of those will be separate. So I want to show you how you can choose colors when you're getting ready to paint. If you go over to the color tab on the right, which you should see if you went to Window, Workspace, and you make sure that you're in Essentials, or you reset the Essentials if you don't have the same panels as I do, you should see Color at the top. So the way you choose a color, you can see this little circle right there. That's telling me what color I have. So you can move it around, and you notice if I pull it down here, this color becomes black. So you'll see there's two squares here. One is the foreground, one is the background, and it matches. Over here on your left toolbar, you can see that it matches whatever you have over here in color. So we're not going to worry about the background right now. We're just going to focus on the foreground color. So to choose a color, you just slide the circle around. So there's white over there. And then let's say you want a totally different hue. You can pull up this slider here to get, like if I wanted to get purple, you can slide this little arrow up towards the purple. And usually the top right corner is the brightest version of that color. And obviously as you move it down, you can get darker colors. If you move it this way, you get lighter. So that's how you can pick your colors. If you want red, you slide this up here and then click over here with your mouse to select red. If you want yellow, I think you get the idea there. So the other way we're going to be choosing colors in this assignment is not just through this color tab, but I told you about the eyedropper tool. So if you go over here to your toolbar on the right, you see this thing, it's called the eyedropper tool. You can press I on your keyboard if you don't see it, and it will highlight it. The way the eyedropper tool works is you just click on whatever color you want to choose. So if I want to choose the blue that's in Sonic, I just click there, and now you can see over here in the color tab, it made that blue selected so I can start painting with blue. So the next thing I need to show you before you get painting your Sonic picture is to learn a little bit about how the brush works. So if you go over here on your toolbar, or you can press B if the tool doesn't show up, and if there's other tools, like if you're getting the pencil tool or some of these other tools that are nested in here, just make sure you have the top one, the regular plain old brush tool. So we're going to select that. Now you'll notice when I have tool selected that up here at the top, this is called the control strip, it changes for each tool that you use. So no matter what tool I click on, you can see that it changes the control strip at the top. So you're going to be working up here in this control strip while you're using the brush tool. Make sure that you have your settings on the default settings up here where it says opacity. Keep it on 100, flow 100, smoothing 0. Make sure that all these are the same. And also here where it says normal, mode, normal, you're going to keep that on normal. The only thing that you will be changing is right here where you see these numbers. Now yours might not say 9. I was just using a size 9 brush earlier, so that's why mine says that. So you're going to click on this little triangle right here and you can open up the menu for that. So you see I had 9 right there. It's because the size of my brush was 9. If you want your brush to be bigger, you just move the slider back and forth to make bigger brushes, and make sure that right now your hardness is on 100%, because I'm going to show you the difference between 0 hardness and 100 in just a minute. First, let's just go over how to change the size of your brush. So if I tell you to put in a size 200, you can just type that in. So you can type in the exact size, or you can fine tune it with this. Now if you go over here to your document, you'll see that there's a circle there. That's showing you how big the brush is. So if I go over here and I make the brush smaller, you can see that the little circle that I have showing up is smaller. If you do not see a circle showing you the size of your brush, it could mean that you have caps lock on. Notice how when I turn caps lock on, it gives me a plus instead. So make sure that you have caps lock off so you can see the size of your brush. The only other thing that might happen is if your brush is really small, you might not see it. It turns into like a little crosshair plus sign. So make sure your brush is big enough. Also, if your brush is too big, it might just be going all the way outside the whole image area and you just might not see it. So try making sure that caps lock is off first, and then just make sure that your brush is the reasonable size so that you'll be able to see the circle. Let's go ahead and make a new layer to do some test brushing on. So let's go to layer, new layer, and we'll just call this layer test. So I want you to go ahead and do that. Make a new layer and call it test. And you can try experimenting with the brushes before you start coloring. So I had the blue selected, so let's do that. Get the blue, get the eyedropper, select the blue, get a brush. Go ahead and make your brush like 50 pixels and 100% hardness, and just color over the page so you can see how that works. Now if I want to make it smaller or bigger, like I told you, you can either type a number in here or you can use a slider, but there's one other way you can change the size, and that is by using the bracket keys on your keyboard. So if you look at the P on your keyboard and go just to the right of that, you'll see the left bracket and the right bracket. If you press the left bracket, you can get a really small brush. That makes the brush smaller. If you use the right bracket, you can make the brush really big. All right, so go ahead and experiment using the bracket key to make your brush smaller and bigger, because you're going to need to change the size. Experiment with changing the color. So try some different colors. Just scribble around and just see how it works to make the brushes bigger, how to change a color. Experiment with getting different colors that you like and different sizes that you like. All right, and after you've done that for a minute, I want to show you how to use a soft brush. So let's go back up into our brush setting at the control strip at the top left. Click that little upside down triangle, and let's put the hardness on 0 and see what the difference is there. And let's make our brush bigger so you can really see. Now I want you to practice with that. The soft brush, as you can see, it's kind of like airbrushing. It fades out at the end. So this is called a 0% hardness, otherwise known as a soft brush. So experiment the same way. Choose some different colors and different sizes. You can use the bracket keys to change the size of the brush. So just experiment with the soft brush for a while and just get to know how to change the colors and how to change the size of it. You can make them really big. So those are the brush tools. And the eraser tool works exactly the same as the brush tool, but it just erases. It has the same controls at the top. It does hard and soft. So let's try a 0% hardness eraser brush, maybe at 100. And you can see it's just like the regular paint brushes. You can change the size to be really small, or you can hit the bracket keys and make something really big to erase it. So a lot of times if you're trying to make something fade out really subtle, you get a really big eraser that's a soft eraser. And notice how when you click on something just on the edge of it, then it can make it fade. So keep that in mind. Go ahead and experiment on this test layer with the brush tool and the eraser, using hard, soft, big, large. Try some different colors and just get familiar with that before you get started coloring. All right, we finally got all this practicing and set up out of the way. Let's go ahead and finally start coloring. So let's get rid of this test layer that we had. You can either just turn it on and off with this eye icon over here to get it out of our way, or you can just click on it and delete it. But you can leave it if you want to keep testing things. I'm just going to go ahead and click on that layer and press delete on my keyboard and get rid of it. All right, so there's many different ways to color. You can actually just go on the base layer and get a brush and start coloring. But since this is a cartoon, there is a really good opportunity here to make it a lot easier. And we are going to just select these areas with our selection tool, the magic wand, and just color them in that way. That way we won't go out of the lines, and it's super quick and easy to do it that way. So let's get our magic wand tool. Remember, if you don't see it right away, if you have one of these other tools on top of it, you can press W on your keyboard and then to get to that spot, and then click on magic wand tool. Make sure that at the top up here in your control strip that the tolerance is 50. So go ahead and change that. The rest of it can pretty much stay to the default settings, but just put tolerance at 50. All right, got the magic wand tool. Let's go ahead and start. Now what you want to do first is click on this background copy. And the magic wand tool, the way it works is it selects area that is the same color fill that's inside of an outline. So we're going to click right here on Sonic's head, and we have that area selected. And we're going to go ahead and select everything that's blue, and we're going to get it all done in one shot. So to select more than one spot with the magic wand tool, you need to hold the shift key on your keyboard. So if I hold the shift key and click on the ear, now you see I have the ear and the head. And let's go ahead and select his torso. Remember to hold the shift key while you do this, and get his other leg. And then there's one other area back here, this other part of his head. I'm going to do Control plus and zoom in, and I'm going to press the space bar to get the hand to move that around, and I'm going to hold the shift key again, and I'm going to select those last two spots. And then you can do Control minus to zoom back out. And you can use the space bar to move things around on the screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill that in. Now, the reason why I made you make this background color is because sometimes people are tempted to just start coloring in on that background layer. And remember, we want to keep our layers separate. So we're going to do the base colors on our base color layer. So after you select from the background copy layer, go to base color. And we want to fill this in with blue. So you can either go up here to your color swatches and you can choose a blue that way, or like I showed you, you can get the eyedropper tool and just click on somewhere on Sonic where there's a regular blue. Don't click on the dark blue or the light blue yet, just on this medium blue here. So you can see we have that color chosen in our color tab, and we can go ahead and get a brush, and we are going to get a hard brush, and we can go ahead and make it really big so we can color it in fast. All right, so there we go. We have that we have the blue all colored in already. Now I want you to deselect this area because we're going to get the shoes next. So go to Select, Deselect, or you can press Control D, which is how I'm going to do it from here on out. But I wanted you to know where you can find it. If you forget the quick key, deselect is Control D. So Control D, deselect that. Now we're ready to get his shoes. So go back to the background copy and get your magic wand tool and click in all the areas that are going to be red, and then hold the Shift key so that you can get all the areas at once. If you don't hold the Shift key, it's just going to select the next area without keeping the selection that you already made. Remember to go back to your base color layer. We're going to get the eyedropper, click on the red. We can still use this big brush that we had so we can color it in quickly, and then Control D to deselect. All right, now let's do this tan color on him. So let's go to the background copy so that we can get the outline. See, if you forget to go on the background copy, let me just show you what could happen. If you forgot to go back on here and you're on this layer and you get the magic wand tool and you try to select this area, it's going to select everything that is not that color. It's going to be selecting all the outside parts of this. So if I zoom out, you can see it selected all the empty space there. So you want to do Control D, make sure you're on the layer that has the outline, and then select those areas. So let's hold the Shift key and get everything that is that tan color. So we have the inside of his ear, we have his face, we have his chest and the arms. And let's get the eyedropper tool and click on that color so we have it selected. Now don't start coloring yet. A lot of people make the mistake of coloring. We're still on the background layer. So make sure you go back to the base color layer and get your brush tool, and you can color that in. All right, so you see how quick this goes? And then we have a couple of gray areas. So let's get our magic wand tool, go back to the background color, and we're going to have to zoom in to get some of these. So you can do Control plus and use the space bar to move the image around. And we're going to get the bottom of his shoes while holding the Shift key. The inside of his shoes have a gray. I think the inside of his glove had a gray. And I think that's it for the solid colors. We're going to use a soft brush to get the other gray shadows and stuff like that on a different layer. So we got that selected. Let's go back to base color, get your eyedropper tool and find a gray, or you can come over here to the color swatch and just pick a gray by sliding your cursor over here to the far left. And you can get the brush tool and we can fill those gray areas in. And then do Control D to deselect. All right, so the only color we have left to put on the base layer is this little green area in his eye. And this is very hard to select with the eyedropper. Let me show you what happens. Let's zoom way into that. When I go to the background layer to select the outline, and I come in here, you'll see that it doesn't really get this little line up here. It's only getting part of it. So I want to show you a way around that part there. So I'm going to do Control D and deselect that. I'm going to go over here to the base color, and if I change this normal to multiply, it's going to allow me to color outside of the line a little bit, and wherever I color over the black, you just won't see it. So go from normal to dark or to multiply, and then we're going to get green, the color green. I'm going to just choose my own green over here, and I'm going to get a brush, and this time I'm going to make the brush really small. So let's make it about 9 or 10. Actually, let's make it 5. Get a 5 pixel size brush, and you can just brush that in. So what I'm doing is I'm coloring over the black a little bit, but since we painted it, or we made the layer blending mode to multiply, you can't see it. So let me put it back on normal and show you what happens. See, you can see that I colored over the lines. I can even do that. you can't see the black in his eye anymore. But by putting it on multiply, the black kind of cancels out what you painted. So now I'm going to color these, the Sonic logo in. I'm going to click on the background layer, get my magic wand tool, and select all that area that's going to be blue. Now I need the inside of the O also, so I'm going to hold the shift key and get that, and the eyedropper to get the blue, and let's put the brush back at a bigger size. This time I'm going to use the bracket keys to make my brush big. So you can practice using the bracket key this time to make your brush bigger. And then we're going to fill in the inside of the Sonic. Okay, I made a mistake and I'm glad, so you can see what happened. So I colored in on my background layer, which I predict is going to happen with a lot of you while you're working. If you accidentally click or color in on the background layer, if you've made a bunch of mistakes, you can just throw that away and make a new copy of the background. But I haven't done that much since then, so I can just do Control Z and undo that. And I'm going to go back to my base color and repaint that in. All right, so I'm glad I made that mistake because I know all of you are going to make it. And now you know how you can just do Control Z, make sure you just go back and keep all your coloring on your base color. Don't color in on the background. All right, so let's do Control D to deselect that. Go back to the background. Let's get the word Sonic. Hold the shift key to get all the letters. And we are going to paint this yellow and orange. So let's go ahead and do the orange part. I'm going to use my eyedropper to get the orange. Go back here. Remember, go back to base color layer and get your brush. And this time we're going to use a soft brush. Notice how it fades from orange to yellow. So we don't want a hard brush. Let's make this hardness 0. And right now I have my brush at 175. That actually is a pretty good size for this. So I'm going to paint the top of that, get the yellow, and then I'm going to get my brush tool again and paint the bottom of it yellow. All right, and then Control D to deselect that. So now we're ready to go ahead and start painting in the shadow layer. So this is the shadow layer. We're going to paint all the dark areas that are the shadows on to our right-hand side of our Sonic coloring page. So I'm going to show you another way to select colors that are quickly. So instead of selecting in the background copy like we were before and clicking in the white areas, I want to show you an easy way to select all of the same color at once. So we're going to still use our magic wand tool and we're going to click in this blue area, but this time we're going to go to Select, Similar. Select, Similar. And what that does, everything that's blue just got selected. Okay, so that's, you can either shift click and do it the way we did before, but that's another easy way to get all of one color selected at once. Now make sure you don't start painting on this. It's very important this time to make sure that you're on your shadow layer before you paint anything, because we are going to want to erase some of the shadows that we make. And if it's not on a different layer, it's going to mess you up pretty bad. So this is very important to remember to click back on the layer that you want to paint. All right, let's get a dark blue. So I'm just going to go ahead and eyedrop that dark blue, and we're going to get our brush tool. And this brush is too big, so I'm going to use my bracket key and pull it down to about 60. And we want to make sure that the hardness is 0. So start off with 60 on the size, hardness 0, and we are on our shadow layer. Go ahead and start painting what you see as some of the shadows. Now you're going to end up going out of the lines a little bit, and that's okay. You can see that I've painted in an area that I don't want, but that's okay. We're going to use the eraser to fix that. I'm going to get in his ear, on the top of his head a little bit. Just follow along what you see on the left-hand side. I'm going to get inside this little area and over here and on the bottom like this. And we want the right hand side of his legs. Now don't start painting over here. What you want to do is, I'm actually holding it outside of the area that I want selected and then just moving in a little bit so that I can get a kind of a subtle selection there. And I think that is all we need to darken. Oh, we need to darken in under his arm and the back of that right there. All right, let me zoom out a little bit. So you'll see that we got a lot of areas that we don't want. So no problem there. We're going to get our eraser and we're going to pick about, let's get a 40 pixel size eraser. Hardness 0. You want to keep that soft, and you want to just go over here and erase some of those areas that you didn't want. So I'm going to get that part of his ear right there, and you can also just fade it out to be a little bit better. Like I didn't want that to go quite that far back. I want this to be a little bit more of a harsh angle. And same with this. This needs to be erased right here. And this right here needs to be erased behind his face. And other than that, I think it looks pretty good. All right, so continue to do that. Go back to your base color. Do Control D to deselect. Let's go to our base color layer. Select on the tan areas and go to Select, Similar. And then very important, go back to your shadows. Don't forget that. Get your eyedropper. Find the darker color there, get your brush tool, check again, make sure you're on the shadows, and go ahead and brush in some shadows around his face, the top of his arm, the side of his chest, near his wrists, because his gloves would be leaving a shadow. Oh, I need to get the top of his ear. I don't think I need to erase anything, but if you do, just get your eraser tool and clean up any areas that you didn't want to have the shadow. Control D to deselect. Let's go ahead and select these white areas that need some shadows. So for that, I'm going to go back to my background because we didn't have anything painted white, so we can't do that select similar thing here. We're going to go back to the background copy and we're going to select everything. Well, there's no shadow in there, so we don't need, there actually should be, so I'm going to go ahead and keep that selected. I'm going to hold the shift key while selecting all of these white things. Here, here, here. All of these white things are selected. And now we're going to go back to the shadow layer and let's choose a gray. So I'm just going to make my own gray up here and I'm going to get my brush tool. So get your brush, make it 30 pixels, and let's go ahead and brush in some shadows. Now you'll see over here I didn't have a shadow there, but technically there would be a little bit of a gray shadow. So go ahead and put a little gray shadow around his eye and then fill in some of the glove areas. Just try to match how I have it over on the left. You'll see I forgot to select those 2 fingers right here. So I'm going to go back to my background layer, hold my shift key and get those fingers, and then go back to the shadow layer. Make sure you go back and get your brush tool again, get those back fingers and paint your shadows. And you're going to be using the eraser on this, so don't worry if it doesn't look exactly how you want. There'll be a shadow here. All right, so once you have all your gray shadows painted in, then you can go back and get the eraser. This time I'm going to make the eraser smaller, like 20 pixels, and clean up any areas. Like I don't want the tip of his thumb to have a shadow, so I'm going to erase those and maybe clean up this a little bit. So just use your eraser to tighten up any spots where you didn't really want to have a shadow. Like I didn't really want to have a shadow here. I just wanted his fingers to have it. I see an area there where I want to go back and put a shadow, so you can always go back and add it in and clean it up with your eraser. All right, so you get the idea there. You can, brush and use your eraser back and forth to get the shadows where you want, and then do Control D to deselect. Alright, so after you have your base colors and your shadows, it's time to do the highlight layer. I am not going to screen record myself doing that. You already get the idea. I just want to show you what it looks like. So you'll just be doing the same thing that you did on the shadow layer, only you'll be doing the lighter colors. So put on the light blue over here and do like some of the bottom of his shoe and the side of his leg. There's really not that many highlights to go on here. So make your highlights on this layer. And then when you're done with that, I want you to take the brush and write your name on the bottom of this with the highlight layer. You can choose any color that you want, but just get a hard brush, and the size should be probably about a 10 pixel brush, and then just sign your name at the very bottom. And the last thing you want to do is save it. And then what I want you to do is crop out the other one. So we want to get rid of this one. You didn't do that one. It was just a reference. So go over here where it says crop tool, where you can press C on your keyboard. Click on that and notice how it gives you this box around the whole thing. You're going to go on the left-hand side where that little white line is, and then you'll get the double arrow when you get it positioned correctly. Just take that and pull it all the way over here and crop it like that and press the check mark. All right, now we have just your piece of art that you did, and then you're going to go ahead and press save to save the PSD, and then you're going to go save a copy, and you're going to make a JPEG, and the JPEG is the one that you turn in for your grade, and the one that's just the regular PSD is the one that you can go back in and edit if you ever need to.